Is Justin Jefferson the best player under 25 in the entire NFL? Plus, what Jalen Hurts' injury could mean for the Vikings playoff scenario. Don't go anywhere. It's coming up next on Superior Sports Talk.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now it's Superior Sports Talk with KARE 11 sports anchor Reggie Wilson and Luke Inman. It's 30 minutes every day, and it's all the Minnesota sports you need. It's Superior Sports Talk, and it starts now.
Back in the lab, Reggie and Luke back at it. Another episode, Superior Sports Talk, presented by Locked On Sports Minnesota. It's your daily 30-minute breakdown of everything Minnesota sports, which you can now find streaming on your Roku or Amazon Fire Stick devices. Just go look out for our Locked On Sports Minnesota app there as well. That's the man, Reggie Wilson, on Twitter, at Reggie Wilson TV. Check him out every night up on KARE 11. Wednesday, Reg, shortest day of the year. Feels like the coldest day of the year if you're listening to this in the frozen tundra like we are. But you know what? It's my mama's birthday today, so it's always one of the best days of the year in my book for me.
Happy birthday. Hope she has a great day and stays on the inside because our meteorologist, Belinda, is forecasting 4 to 8 inches today. So God bless. Stay in.
Man, oh, man. Birthday shout out for moms. Huge fan of the show, by the way. Never missed an episode. How about that? How about that, Reg?
That's how moms
plenty
do,
to get into. Yeah, plenty to get into. Remember, follow along, Locked On Minnesota YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button. Leave us a comment. And on Twitter, give us a follow. It's at Locked On MIN. And remember, after this show, go check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Speaking of YouTube, every day, post that new poll up on Locked On Minnesota YouTube community page. Yesterday, I asked fans, who was the unsung hero from Saturday's record-breaking comeback? Now, remember, these are the unsung heroes because I saw a lot of comments, hey, where's KJ Osborne? Well, he got a lot of love, as he should have. 12 catches, $180, career day for KJ. Love to see it. But these are the unsung heroes that we threw up there. Pat P, he rallied the troops in the locker room at halftime. Eric Kendricks, he led the team with 12 tackles. Greg Joseph, he iced the game, made every kick on the day. And Duke Shelly, who continues to just step up and play a big role with so many injuries in the secondary. Here were the results. Duke, he takes it home. Nearly 70% of the votes. Pat P and Greg the Leg nearly tied for second place. So, Reg, here's my question. Ever since Duke came in that Buffalo game, seems like years ago now, he broke up that huge pass on Dawson Knox in the end zone. He's been just an integral part of this secondary. Saturday, he made a handful of big plays again. Has this dude earned the right to leapfrog Cam Dantzler for the starting cornerback spot? What's your opinion on the way Duke Shelly's playing and Cam Dantzler's role with the Vikings secondary?
So it's a good problem to have, especially because, the Vikings defense has been getting torched this season. And so, look, if you got another starting caliber cornerback, I think he'd be a good addition along with Cam Dantzler. It's funny because people were like, oh my God, did Cam Dantzler get demoted like last year with Zimmer?
Right.
Because last year he was demoted for Chris Boyd, and people were like, whoa, like, what's going on with this kid?
In the doghouse here. What happened?
Yeah. And so he dressed, he was active, didn't play a single defensive snap. Duke Shelly played all the defensive snaps, was the highest rated player on Pro Football Focus at 83.9. The dude was balling out of control. We learned after the game, Kevin O'Connell says, oh yeah, Dantzler was dressed as an emergency. That was always the plan. He was only going to play in case of an emergency because of the injury that he had. And so you can kind of calm it down a little bit, but whenever a guy plays well in someone else's stead, now all of a sudden you have a controversy. It's interesting because Duke Shelly isn't the biggest guy, so you would think that like he wouldn't be positioned well enough to like he's 5'9", right?
Right.
And you would think like, okay, at cornerback, a little undersized, but the guy just makes plays, man. Some big, big pass breakups. Whenever a quarterback tries to try him on his side, he goes out there and he balls out. And I think he has made the case. You're talking about a guy elevated from the practice squad out of Kansas State. You're talking about a dude that has now earned the right for some added playing time. And I don't know if that comes at the expense of Cam Dantzler. Cam Dantzler does some good things when he's in there. I don't know if he's fully healthy. That game against the Lions, he got beat quite a bit over the top. I'm remembering that deep play to DJ Shark.
Yep.
That he beat him over the top along the sideline. And I'm like, man, I don't know if he's fully healthy or not, or did he need some more time before coming back from that ankle injury? Like, I don't know. But I think when you look at the recent play of Cam Dantzler as opposed to what Duke Shelly has been able to do when he stepped into that starting role, I think that's what probably makes that question feel a little bit more valid to ask. But I do think that Cam Dantzler does some good things when he's out there and is a solid player. If there's a way to get those guys both involved in there, then that would be good. But he has earned the right for more playing time for sure.
Yeah, to your point, like as a coach, it's tough. You start out the year hoping the young guys, the higher draft picks, if you will, they're going to go out there, earn their spot, and develop the way you hope, but not always the case. Cam's been beat up a lot this year, as you said, and when the opportunity presented itself, Duke Shelly's just been balling out, man. He's earned the right to be the Vikings starting number 2 cornerback without a doubt, in my opinion. So much of cornerback, too, is confidence. You hear Deion Sanders and all the top corners say it all the time. You can just see it with Duke right now. He's playing with his hair on fire, playing with confidence. And I'm not saying Cam still isn't the long-term solution out there, but right now, just sitting here today, Duke Shelly should be the team's number 2 cornerback because he's earned it. And you know who it reminds me of just a little bit on a smaller scale? Antoine Winfield, short stature, but will come up and just smack you in the mouth. Doesn't have the elite coverage skills and awareness of Winfield, so I'm not putting him on that level. That wouldn't be fair, but just the approach and like the style to his game, it's got a little Winfield in it, some Mighty Mouse to his game, if you will. And like you said, came up off the streets. He was practice squad, plucked from Chicago, comes over, sits on the practice squad, eventually pulled up. What's interesting, too, you mentioned his stature. He's only 5'9". You would just assume that he would be a slot inside cornerback given his size. He was asked that. He goes, in Chicago, they started me out there because everybody thought that's what made sense on paper. But to be honest, I'm actually most natural outside as a boundary cornerback. So I think the Vikings will just take as many bodies and as much depth as they can at this point, given how many injuries they've dealt with. But clearly, Chandon Sullivan seems to be cemented in that inside slot cornerback role. I think Duke Shelly has shown that he can play outside at boundary cornerback for now until Cam Dantzler does get healthy. But for now, yeah, number 2 corner, I think it's got to be Duke Shelly, man. So go check out the YouTube community page every day, posting that new poll over there. Don't miss a beat. Go comment. Let us know what you think. All right, let's flip to the other side of the ball. Justin Jefferson, he needs 126 yards and change the next 3 weeks to break the all-time receiving record set by Megatron. Here's the 2 big things standing in his way here, Reg. One, he ends the year outdoors in Lambeau and in Soldier, and we've already seen those conditions. They can get cold as they do, not the ideal passing conditions to be out there trying to break any records. And number 2, pending how this next week or 2 goes, the Vikings as a whole, just top to bottom, may be put in a position here where their seeding is locked up, whether that's the number 2 or 3 seed. I think statistically favors them being the number 2 seed, but could be either or, and could be very tempted to sit the majority of their core players, rest them up for the playoff run. Just your quick thoughts on JJ's race for 2K and these kind of obstacles standing in his way.
Yeah, I look at who the teams are that are left. I think, you look at the Giants, they had a pretty good game on Sunday against Scary Terry, who is one of the better cornerbacks in the league, or better wide receivers in the league. And so it's so interesting to see, like, okay, it really hasn't mattered, it seems, for Justin Jefferson lately, who he plays. Like, he's kind of like getting his, like, look, Stephon Gilmore is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Like, the dude is probably like a future Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like that's like a thing. But I think if you look at like the remaining opponents, and I know field conditions could be, a thing, but I mean, look, that Giants defense is not necessarily all world. Like I tweeted on Sunday, just kind of, poking fun, but I couldn't name you 5 Giants players. Like I think I saw on the defensive backside, like they got a guy, Julian Love. I know Jalen Smith is there now, former Cowboy. It was a high draft pick. Like, I don't know who they have. Like so I give.
You're right. It's not a lot of name brand guys. It's really not. It's not.
And I look at some of the games that the Giants have played against the Eagles. They gave up 48 points, and those wide receivers just went out there and balled out.
Yeah, good point.
Against the Cowboys, they gave up 28. Against the Lions, they gave up 31. And we've seen how the Lions have played over the last several weeks. And so, look, I think it is ready for him to go out there and have a big game, especially last home game of the season. And it's time for him to continue on that role. And I think he's kind of reached that level where he's getting his, regardless of who he's going up against, because Kevin O'Connell is doing a great job of putting him in the right position to get the ball. Like, look, Stephon Gilmore is one of the best cornerbacks in the league. He couldn't do anything with that route that he ran for the touchdown. Like, that route was absolutely filthy from JJ. And it seems like as the year has gone along, he's gotten even more momentum. You look at the Packers game. I was kind of looking back here. Do you remember when the Packers hosted the Cowboys and they came back and they beat the Cowboys in overtime?
Yeah. Yep.
CeeDee Lamb had 11 receptions for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. And look, we saw what Justin Jefferson did in that first week against the Packers. I mean, I know they're probably going to be keying on him a little bit more, but if CeeDee Lamb can get 11 for 150 and two touchdowns, like, I think Jefferson is just as capable. And then look, that last game of the season, the field conditions at Soldier Field are not great. We did see Jefferson enjoy a successful night last year, if you think about that Monday night game, and then you think about that last game of the season where we were mad at Zimmer for not letting Jefferson get that record. But I think he can go out there and do his thing, because if you look at the Bears secondary, it's like, what did I say yesterday? Like David Ruffin and the Temptations. It's like Eddie Jackson and the Bears defense. Like that's about all you see there. So you would think that, if the field conditions are okay, like if he's able to go out there and run his routes the way that he wants to, you would think that he goes out there and he could ball. And the Vikings are still playing for something. This injury with Jalen Hurts just kind of opens the door a little bit for the possibility of that number 1 seed. If the Eagles lose out and the Vikings win out, there's a possibility that the Vikings can get that number 1 seed. And now you're talking about them hosting a playoff game on a first round bye and all that good stuff. And so I think they're going to be playing for something to the very end. So if they're playing for something, obviously they're trying to get the ball into their best playmakers' hands, which means that gives Justin Jefferson a great chance to get this 2K.
Yeah, a lot of good points there. End of the day, too, like there's plenty of just fair critiques and opticals standing in his way we could pick through and sift through. But you know what? Like, I'm just done doubting this dude. Like, all he's done is just prove us wrong time and time again. And I know there'll be sub-degree temps, but what this man showed us Saturday is he's just one of the toughest, baddest SOBs in the game right now. And 2, like, you look at just the statistics, what he needs to average, 126 yards for him for JJ on any given day could look like a walk in the
He'd get
park.
that in the first half.
That's what I'm saying. So I get it, like not the ideal path the rest of the way, but I will not bet against this man anymore. Can't do it. Ideally, he just goes off for 200 Saturday in the dome, in the easy conditions to make things a lot easier those final 2 weeks. And again, just nothing surprises me anymore with JJ when KOC is calling the shots. You kind of mentioned it. I don't think the game script and flow of the game versus a run-heavy team like the Giants who play good defense, as you kind of mentioned, will line up for a huge passing day for anyone, to be honest. But again, just with JJ, I can't bet against him anymore. You just never know. So with all this talk about JJ, by the way, and now ESPN's latest article where they redrafted the 2021 class, I want to quickly run through the best players under 25 just to get a gauge of who you and I have as the best in the league right now. So I made this spreadsheet. Matt, I don't know if we can pull it up. If not, I'll post it later. I've got all the best and brightest under 25 kind of separated in their respective categories. We're going to go through lightning round style, build our own team. We each need to draft one quarterback, one offensive lineman, one skill position, one front seven player, one DB, and then they gave us one flex. So we're going to do this quick, no more than like 10 seconds for each pick, and then just give me 2 or 3 sentences why you maybe love that guy or that pick. I'll give you the honors with the first pick. We'll go snake draft. So I'll have the second and third pick. You'll have the fourth and fifth pick, so on and so forth. That makes sense? You ready to roll?
Let's do it.
10 seconds on the clock. Top players in the NFL, 25 and under. Reggie Wilson, you are on the clock.
All right, my first player, I'm going Justin Herbert because you got to start with the quarterback. You got to start with the quarterback.
Whoa, what a banger. Surprise. I'm going to call that an off-the-wall pick. I thought for sure you'd go JJ just for the hometown votes, but I'm with you, man. You got to go quarterback. A lot of good options over there. I, for one, think Herbert is still underrated. He takes too much heat for whatever reason. I know his stats aren't always just blazing, but I like that pick. I'm going to go JJ just for the hometown picks. And then coming back, it's tough. It's between Sauce or Micah Parsons. I think I'm going to go Micah Parsons. I'm going to take the Cowboys edge rusher, get my front seven guy out of the way. So you get the next 2 picks. Who you got?
All right, I'll go Jamar Chase because, I mean, come on.
Come on. Of course.
And you went Sauce, huh?
No, I went Micah Parsons. I left you Sauce if you want him.
Well, I'm going to go Sauce.
Love it. So let me just stole Sauce from me. So you got Herbert, Chase, and Sauce. All right. So I'm going to get my offensive lineman out of the way. I'm going to go Christian Darrisaw. Maybe I'm going Homer on the bit just a little bit. There is a lot of good options over there, but I'm going to go Darrisaw. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to take Justin Fields. You know, I could probably wait on quarterback, even though you already took Herbert, but I'm going to take Justin Fields. So you're back to back now. You need an offensive lineman, a front seven, and then you got a flex. You can take whatever you want.
Okay. 1, 2. Okay. Give me Penei Sewell.
Ooh, nice pick.
Yep. Give me Penei Sewell. Give me Brian Burns.
I like that. Brian Burns, rumored to be offered at least a first-round pick from a lot of teams when the Panthers traded away McCaffrey. They said, all right, you going dumpster fire, you trading away the farm? And they said,
Panthers
we need 2 firsts minimum. That's how good Brian Burns is. All right, don't do that. All right, I need a DB. Sauce is off the board. I'm going to go Patrick Surtain Jr. for my DB, and then my flex. You already took Chase, man. That's dirty. I'm going to go. I can't believe DK Metcalf's on this list. That dude seems like he's been in the league for 9 years. He's still under 25 years old. I'm going to go Waddle. I'm going to have Jefferson and Waddle on my team. I'm going to go Waddle. All right, you got the last pick. Mr. Relevant. Flex, you can pick any position, any player. Even double up on quarterback if you wanted. Maybe that's not a bad idea.
Any position,
you got the board.
Any player, huh?
Any position, any player.
Yeah, give me Amon-Ra.
I love that pick. Still one of the most underrated under 25 players in the league right now. So, kind of a fun exercise. Herbert, Sewell, Jamar Chase, Brian Burns, Sauce Gardner, St. Brown. Love that. I got Fields, Darrisaw, Jefferson, Micah Parsons, Surtain, and Waddle.
My team is beating your team.
Okay. All right. There you have it. Here's the deal, Reg. Before the trash talk begins, I'll post these results here later on my Twitter at Luke_Spinman. We'll vote on who you think has the best team. But again, just kind of a fun, quick exercise to showcase not just who you and I have at the top, but just how flooded the NFL NFL is right now with so much young, emerging talent that,
Absolutely.
should be around for a long, long time. So many great options up there that we didn't even select, we didn't even mention or talk about. We'll throw the list up there so you guys can take a peek. And maybe most importantly, too, what this shows, despite all that young talent that we just kind of laid out there, Justin Jefferson at the top, probably a consensus top 2, top 3 pick, if not maybe even number 1, 3 out of 5 times, something like that. So just pretty fun to think about him in purple for years to come and the things he'll do under KOC. Back up that Brinks truck, baby. Pay that man his money.
Pay him
man.
whatever.
Blank check. Oh, by the way, too, ESPN's 2021 redraft is out. Jordan Reed, Matt Miller. They got Christian Darrisaw now going 9th overall to the Broncos. So as if JJ wasn't enough, Vikes got 2 blue chip core foundational pieces to build around on the offense for hopefully years to come. So if you haven't already, go check that out. Pretty cool stuff. All right, coming up next, we're talking Vikes playoff seeding and scenarios, plus the Twins' plan at shortstop now that Carlos Correa has flip-flopped over to New York. But first, Vikes jump back up to 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. Vikings open this week versus the Giants, 4-point favorites. Over-under sitting at 44.5 points. Make sure to keep tabs all season long and check those odds out and more with BetOnline. BetOnline.net, fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Stats, news, info, you want it, they got it. NFL, NBA, NHL, even MMA and UFC. BetOnline makes betting easy and is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Go to betonline.net today to learn more. That's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, Reg, time has come for What Does It Mean?
It's time to tell us, what does it mean?
First one up, Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts. He's got a sprained shoulder, could miss this Saturday's game versus the Cowboys. What does it mean for the Vikings' chances at the #1 seed with 3 games to go? Now, here's the deal. They're 2 games back in the standings, but really 3. They need to win 3. So Eagles need to lose all 3. Vikings would need to win all 3 to win the #1 seed. But if Jalen Hurts isn't playing, chip in a chair, they got a shot, right?
I would think so. Look, they gotta win these games out, man. You know what was tough was the last thrilling or exhilarating win where they quote unquote emptied the clip was the win against the Bills. Man, they came out and just got stomped the next week against the Cowboys. And so they're gonna have to avoid another loss like that to the Giants. Yeah, they I mentioned last night on KR11, look, the NFL stands for not for long. And usually it's when they talk about careers, but it also is about games. The wins. After one, you're already on to the next. Yeah, it's cool, it's fun, it's great. Yeah, great. Yeah. But now the rent is due again, and it's time to go pay it once again. And if they are not on it, the Giants will stomp them. There's a possibility. Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, I think they have the tools to beat a team like the Giants, because I don't think the Giants are the greatest team that I've seen. I think, when they were continuing to win those games, I feel like it was by circumstance or happenstance. And so I think overall talent on this Vikings team is more than what's on the Giants team, but they have to avoid a letdown. They cannot come out there and be flat again like they were coming out against the Colts and expect to win again. They can't keep putting the fans through that too. The fans are exasperated at this point, but they have to continue to win. And look, these are 3 winnable games at the end of the season. And you just gotta, you gotta find a way to get those 3, because the Eagles, look, Jalen Hurts will be out. Gardner Minshew is no slouch as a backup quarterback. He can get it done in the league. He's shown it before. And so I feel like they're going to continue to keep winning. The Vikings have to do their part.
Yeah, Eagles remaining schedule at Dallas this week again. That's a Saturday game. That's tough. Jalen Hurts may miss that one. Versus the Saints at home, they'll probably spoil Vikings' chances at the 1 seed with that one, but you never know. And then they wrap up again versus the Giants at home. Again, those division games, especially this NFC East this year, are always a slugfest. So you never know. 2 of the last 3 division games in the NFC East, so you never know. All right, next one up. Carlos Correa flip-flopped and bolted from San Fran, West Coast to the East Coast over to New York, now signing a 12-year, $315 million deal with the Mets. What does it mean? You can take this whatever direction you go. I feel like there's a lot of talking points here. Talk about Correa, the flip-flop, what the Mets look like now, but also just make sure you end it with what the Twins' plans are at shortstop for the future in 2023.
No idea. Like people are thinking like it's just going to be Kyle Farmer, until Lee comes back. Like I mean Lewis until Lewis comes back, and I'm like, okay, like I guess like I spent some time in Cincinnati, when Farmer was an infielder for the Reds, and he played well. But losing out on Carlos Correa and going to a Kyle Farmer, that's different. That's different. Look, this has to feel like a double knife in the back because Correa had a chance. Once things fell through with the Giants, he had a chance to go back to the Twins and be like, hey, y'all still want to make a deal? Get Wayne Brady over here. Let's make a deal.
Yeah.
And he still chose not to go to Minnesota. And I get it. All the stuff that the Mets have done in the offseason, re-signing Nemo, Verlander, Quintana, like they have positioned themselves to be quite the contender, especially next season before the foreseeable future. And so maybe he felt like the upside of going to New York was better than going back to Minnesota. But if you look at it, the reported offer that Minnesota offered, the 10-year, $285 million deal, it's still a higher average annual value than the contract that he was going to sign with San Francisco and then the contract that he is about to sign with the Mets. It's just kind of crazy. And it said the Giants had a difference of medical opinion with Correa, and so that whole thing fell through. They were about to introduce this dude yesterday, and all of a sudden now he's a Met. And so it's kind of wild. Like he had a chance to get back with the Twins and still chose to go elsewhere. That has to feel just a little bit more of a burn for Twins fans who already felt the burn from him spurning them once.
Were they not in on Dansby Swanson at all? Well, why wouldn't they just kind of go on tilt and say, all right, it's the only good option left here at shortstop. We just got to break the bank. Go for it.
I don't think that they wanted to break the bank for a player like that. Okay. Like I think they wanted to probably do something reasonable.
All right.
But I mean, 7 for 177. I don't know if they were willing to do that with a player like Dansby. Like he had the one good year last year as far as like with the bat, but he's a really good defensive shortstop. But I don't know if you just are relying on this guy after one good year with the bat to be like a cornerstone for the future. I didn't think that they were sold on that.
Fair enough. No, that makes sense. All right, last one here. Naz Reid. Dude scored 65 points combined during the Wolves' latest 3-game winning streak. What does it mean for Reid and his role with the team when both big men are back in the lineup? You mentioned yesterday Rudy Gobert. He's day-to-day. Karl Towns still a couple weeks out.
Dude, man, Naz Reid is about to get a bag in the offseason. And I don't know if it's going to be with the Timberwolves because like they got to do some things. Like, I'm not sure if D'Lo's going to be a long-term option for the Wolves after this season. So maybe you get his contract off the books and you can sign another max level player, or maybe you sign a not necessarily a max level player, but someone under that who's still a very productive player. And then you do have a little bit more money to sign guys like Naz Reid and Jalen Noel to, some nice deals. I think as long as Rudy is out, as long as Cat is out and Reid is in there playing, like he's going to ball. You're talking about a 28-point performance against the Thunder and then a 27-point performance the other night. Like the dude is a walking bucket at this point. He's averaging 14 points over the last 10 games, and he's shown that he is making the most of his playing time. Chris Finch said whatever they ask of him, he goes in there and gets it done. And there's something to be said about a guy who can just, whether you bring him off the bench, whether you put him in starter minutes, he just goes in there and gets buckets. That is a valuable player, and someone's going to find him valuable enough to give him the bag. And I just wonder if the Timberwolves are going to be able to afford to keep him.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Already traded the farm in the future, mortgaged the whole thing for Rudy Gobert, another big man. But you developed this guy, man. He wasn't a high top draft pick. And I'm a draft guy. I love all the top high draft picks and watch them develop and see what they do. But I love a good underdog story, man. He wasn't the big high draft pick. To see him just develop and come along in his career. And you did that as an organization and a coaching staff. You'd love to see him stay around, but it's going to be awfully tough with two other big men in front of him for the long haul. T-Wolves, by the way, rematch tonight in the backyard at the Target Center. Tip-off 7 p.m. versus the Mavs in Game 2. Again, they won that first one 116-106 Wednesday night. All right, that's a wrap today. Remember, like, rate, review, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join us every day for another episode with your 30-minute breakdown of everything Minnesota sports. We're a podcast too, free and available, all platforms. Subscribe, drop us that 5-star review, and find us streaming on your Roku or Amazon Fire Stick devices. Just look out for our Locked On Sports Minnesota app there as well. That's the man, Reggie Wilson, on Twitter at Reggie Wilson TV. Check him out every night up on KARE 11. Luke Inman on Twitter at Luke_Spinman. Special thanks to the producer, Matt DeBritz. We're back tomorrow with another episode of Superior Sports Talk, part of Locked On Sports Minnesota. For Reggie, I'm Luke. Until tomorrow, signing off.
Be blessed. Spread love today.